So Reenee, you're a UKCP member. Tell us a little bit about your work and who you work with.
Yes, well, thank you for inviting me. My name is Dr. Reenee Singh, and I'm a systemic psychotherapist. I worked at the Tavistock for a long time, and now I work independently. And I'm in the process of launching the London Intercultural Couples Centre, which is at the Child and Family Practice in Bloomsbury. And I'm also the editor of the Journal of Family Therapy.
You mentioned intercultural couples. Can you tell us about the challenges that they face?
Yes, I mean, I think that intercultural couples and the families they create face particular challenges across the life cycle. So they would present with challenges right from the beginning of their relationship, because they might have to make a commitment to each other against a lot of parental opposition. They may not be able to decide what kind of religious ceremony to have for their wedding. So there might be sort of difficulties right at the start of their relationship, which they might need help with. And then across the life cycle, especially when they have children together, there might be issues to do with what kind of naming ceremony to have, how they negotiate relationships with their parents and extended families when the children are born, and how this might be different if they come from the same culture or the same country or the same religion. They might also face challenges about the kind of language to bring their children up in, the kind of religion that the children will adopt. They're very different parenting styles, as well as what it's like to parent mixed race or dual heritage children, and the impact of racism on their whole families. So these are the sort of specific issues that have very direct consequences for the mental health of the entire family.
And obviously all of these things can have an impact on their relationship as a couple, between parents and children. And
Well, for a systemic psychotherapist, we would never see a person's symptoms in isolation. So we're always constantly looking at the entire system. And we're also looking at the impact of racism on the mental health of the children, and how that impacts on their school performance, on other relationships within the family. So we're looking sort of much more recursively, by which I mean that every person in the family's behavior is both a cause and effect of other people's behavior. It's never seen in isolation. So when we work with a couple and the parenting subsystem, we're hoping that then this will have a good impact on the children. We also often see a lot of conflict between intercultural couples, and again, that's not to say that there isn't conflict among couples from the same or similar cultural backgrounds, but sometimes this conflict can get very polarized along sort of religious and racial lines, and children often get caught up in these conflicts. And so a lot of my work in terms of helping with mental health and preventing mental illness, if you like, is how to help children to get out of these positions between their parents by helping parents to reconcile their religious and cultural differences.
do you think that's possible? Is that something that people find?
I think sometimes it's also about accepting that there are differences, and that it's more about sort of learning to live with these differences, or indeed even deciding to separate if the differences are too difficult to reconcile, too huge to reconcile. But in those cases, a lot of the work would be about helping couples to separate well, to give them the opportunity to recognize that some of these differences couldn't be reconciled and couldn't be bridged. But often they are, and often I think it's just about having a space where they can explore these differences without rushing in and judging each other's differences, and understanding that they do quite literally come from very different places and carry in their heads very different templates or maps about what childhood should look like, what gender relationships should be like, what parenting looks like, what attachment looks like. And they do have very different templates, and these are the things that, if they're not given a chance to talk about, can create a lot of the conflict, and hence the sort of mental health difficulties between them. I also just wanted to say that I've made it sound as if these services are only for heterosexual couples or couples planning to get married, but they're actually for sort of couples from diverse backgrounds as well as from different sexualities. So we do work a lot with gay and lesbian couples. We do work with different family forms. We have had even sort of more polyamorous families who present for help. So it's more about really the diversity of different couples, not just the heterosexual married couples.
This is Mental Health Awareness Week.
Yes.
And the focus of the week is relationships. Is there anything that people could usefully do or think about during the week that might help them?
Yes, I think that for intercultural couples, for all couples really, it's something about valuing their relationships, and that might sound quite sort of vague, because how do you value each other and the relationships that are formed, especially across culture? And I wonder if some of that has to do with doing things like promoting the different cultures within the family, helping children to see that there are two different kinds of foods, for example. So helping children and parents and couples really appreciate the richness that these two different cultures or heritages can bring in terms of language, in terms of cultural traditions, in terms of food, in terms of relationships with extended family, in terms of religious practices. So maybe specifically for intercultural couples and the families that they create, maybe this week could be about appreciating the richness and the multiplicity of the cultures that they both inhabit.
Reenee, thank you.
Thank you very much.